पापा बिल्कुल बंद कर देना दरवाजा। Good evening, everyone. I'm Rishabh Mishra from Rata Delhi chapter. Thanks for taking out time and making yourself available today, especially considering the precarious situation we are in. Hope everyone is safe and healthy. Now, before moving on to our topic of the day, first I would like to tell you what Rata is. Rata is Refrigeration and Trade Association. It's a 72-year-old association, one of the oldest in this industry. It's an association which brings together people from the industry on a common platform to resolve common issues. And yeah, just to be clear, it looks into the commercial aspect of the trade. So virtually Rata is very aggressive in organizing programs with government organizations like MSME departments, GST councils, and there are a lot of programs which has been done by Rata, which has gained quite popularity. One such program recently, which Rata conducted with Mr. Nitin Gadkari, gained quite a popularity on the social platform. So to get the more information about the programs and the kind of issues we fight for, the kind of programs we conduct and where all we are present and how our membership works, you can always log on to the rataindia.com website. And that's all about Rata. And now moving on to today's presentation. So today's presentation is on Treds. Now, Treds is Trade Receivable Discounting System. It's a platform for instant invoice finance available for MSME, which is being operated by RXIL. Now, you may ask, what is RXIL? RXIL is Receivable Exchange of India Limited, a joint venture of SIDBI and National Stock Exchange, happened in around 2016. I won't go much into the detail. We have an expert to speak about the same. So introducing Mr. Indrajit Samantha, an MBA from International Management Institute, currently working with RXIL as a business development manager. Previously, he has worked with large corporations like ICICI, IBM, on similar platforms. Indrajit, we're glad you could take out time and make yourself available, especially during such, distressing times. And we are really grateful and thankful that you could come out and give us a presentation on what Treds is, because I feel that a lot of our viewers are already MSME registered, but they are not aware. Maybe they are aware, but they are not. They don't know much about what Treds is. So I think today the light will be shed by you, Indrajit, and that'll be a great honor. Thank you. You can take on.
Hi Rishabh, thanks for the kind words, and I once again thank you for having me here on the platform today. So we at RXIL are in continuous process of full commitment to the MSMEs, to serve them, to build the nation, and we even apart from Treds, what are the different avenues where they can seek help, what the government is offering in terms of initiatives. So we are always there. So today's presentation is about Treds and what Treds has to offer. So I'll quickly move on to the presentation so that our viewers can have a look at what Treds means, how it became an initiative, why RBI launched it, and what are the different modalities where they can participate and they can take benefit of the platform. My presentation is visible, right?
No, currently you probably will have to do it again.
No problem. I'll do it.
Yes, now I think our viewers can look at your presentation.
Right. So, starting with the presentation, so RXIL typically stands for Receivables Exchange of India Limited. It is basically a joint venture of NSE and SIDBI. They are our major shareholders. And along with them, we have other three shareholders. They are ICICI Bank, SBI Bank, Yes Bank. So, as we know that Treds, among other initiatives by the government of India, has been launched to help the MSMEs, to benefit the MSMEs in different ways, starting from GEM portal to Samadhan portal. So, Treds is one such initiative which is very important, so it helps unlock the working capital of MSMEs and their receivables from large corporates and PSUs. So, starting with a few background and a few numbers and a few stats, here is this slide particularly shows the survey done by ET Magazine, wherein we understand that there has been a lot of receivables where the MSMEs are not getting paid on time and their funds are blocked with large corporates and PSUs. So typically, if we see that the PSUs and large corporates tend to use MSMEs as their working capital, and the MSMEs are typically at their mercy in order to, like, when they can receive the funds after executing of projects or supplying of goods. So if you see that for MSMEs and like apart from that, they're also not they typically do not have much access to formal banking channels. So for this, Treds typically addresses these issues. Now, moving on to the next slide, you see MSMEs are now the focus of the government because of their contribution to the economy in terms of jobs, in terms of their contribution to the GDP, and also their quantum of exports. The figures are there in front of you, and the dream towards a $5 trillion economy. So I think the MSMEs have a lot to contribute towards that. But considering that the MSMEs have a lot to contribute, but their funding and their source of capital still remains a constraint, which somehow restricts their growth. So what we understand that the MSMEs still suffer from inadequate finance, and even if so, they do not have access to formal banking channels, or they are exposed to high interest rates due to informal channels of capital. And to address that, typically the Treds have been launched. So Treds stands for Trade Receivables E-Discounting System. So it is, so in a very simple language, it is a multi-buyer, multi-financer bill discounting system. So we have multiple corporates and PSUs participating on the platform. On one side, we have different multiple financiers like banks and NBFC factors participating on the other hand, and we have the MSMEs. So these three participants come together on a Treds platform to do a transaction which benefits the MSMEs. So moving forward, here is another survey from the IFC report, which shows that they are largely devoid of access to formal banking channels. So they resort to self-finance or donations, or borrowing from family and borrowing from other local options of finance, which are usually at high interest rates. So the different efforts taken by the government, starting from the introduction of the MSMED Act in 2006, which states that the MSME organizations have to be paid within a span of 45 days from the goods acceptance date or the deemed goods acceptance date. Then moving over to the disclosure of different MSME payables at a corporate level, then to the establishment of the MSME Samadhan portal, and then the setup of the RBI Treds Receivable E-Discounting System. The background and evolution of Treds. So it starts back in 2008 when there was the ideation done by NSC based on a Mexican model of Treds called NAFIL. So NSC set up their own platform ideation, and then subsequently RBI issued the guidelines for Treds in 2014, and then they invited applications for setting up the platform. So NSC and SIDBI together, they received an in-principle approval from RBI in December 6, 2015, and finally the approval in 2016. And we started our first transaction in January of 2017. So today, so from January 2017 to, let's say, March 2021 has been a very exciting journey for RXIL. and also other players of the Treds. So today, as on date, we have three entities hosting the Treds platform. The first entity to receive the license was RXIL. The second is Invoice, and the third is M1 Exchange. So as on date, RXIL has been the leading platform. There's around 40% market share, and we have done a discounting of more than 10,000 crores for MSMEs. So this number goes on to say that how much amount we have benefited the MSMEs and how much capital we have unlocked for them over the time. And we are in the constant pursuit for more. So we target, so 10,000 crores is nothing. So we target huge volumes and more ways to benefit MSMEs and more MSMEs to get registered on the platform and to transact more. So going on to the next slide about RXIL. RXIL again, I'll reiterate, it is promoted by CDB and NSC along with SBI, ICICI and Yes Bank. And our vision is to empower small businesses and to get them on board on our platform and for them to participate across multiple corporates and PSUs. Again, this slide shows the RXIL vision, which is to become an integrated provider of financing solution to support the growth and development of MSMEs across the sectors and across the geographies, and to transform the supply chain ecosystem of MSMEs by providing innovative solution and to simplify supply chain transactions through digital system, digital KYC, digital onboarding, and paperless transaction and a smooth realization of cash. So this particular slide shows typically the diagram of Treds and the essentials of Treds. So Treds, as I earlier said, is a multi-buyer, multi-financer bill discounting system. So you can see on one hand we have multiple buyers. So by buyers I mean large corporates and PSUs. By sellers I mean MSME suppliers, large corporates and PSUs. On the third, we ourselves as an aggregator of all the three participants, and we have financiers who are banks and NBFC factors. So banks include both PSU banks, nationalized bank, as well as foreign banks. So as on date, we have around 600 plus buyers on the platform, corporates and PSUs. We have close to 7,000 MSME suppliers on the platform and still counting. We have a pipeline of more than 5,000. We have, as on date, 42 financiers on the platform and still counting. So this is a schematic diagram how RXIL connects the three parties. So whenever a supplier provides a goods or service to any particular corporate, they raise the invoice. The invoice is uploaded on the RXIL platform. Through the RXIL platform, the financer gets to see the invoice and gets to fund the invoice. The funds are credited back to the supplier. This is how
Indrajit,
the company. Yes.
just to break you, is it possible to close your video because we're not really getting a good audio?
Okay.
Yeah, please try. Thank you. Yeah, sorry to cut you in between.
No problem. So I'll continue from here. So as I said, that RXIL acts as an aggregator to connect all the three parties on the platform. And the workflow I'll cover in a different slide. This is just how RXIL acts as an aggregator for the three participants on the platform. So the typical cycle of how the three parties come together is that first we approach the buyers, that is the large corporates and PSUs, to get them registered on the platform. So we do the KYC and the documentation for them to get them registered on the platform. Subsequently, we take their vendor list so that we come and connect with all their vendors. So we ask for the vendor list from the large corporates and PSUs. Subsequently, we connect to all their vendors, and also we connect to a lot of vendors through webinars and discussions like this, so that we can spread more of awareness. So typically, when we get the vendor list from corporates, we connect with each one of them, we get them on board, we discuss the benefits, we discuss how we can get their receivables encashed. And then when they register on the platform, we have a formal handshaking on the platform, which is called a buyer-seller link. This buyer-seller link is a unique link for every buyer and every supplier on the platform, which basically contains the PO terms of payment, that who is enjoying the credit period, who is bearing the interest cost. Obviously, this service from RXIL comes at a transaction cost. So, who is bearing the transaction charges, and what is the cap rate? And it has multiple options. Like both the buyer also can enjoy the credit period after the due date. The seller can receive an early payment. So we have a permutation and combination of everything. It can be a forward factoring. It can be a reverse factoring. It can be a mix of both. So this particular slide will explain the entire Treds workflow. Uh, you can reserve your questions to the end of the meeting, and I'll clarify all the questions after the presentation. So as we see that the invoices needs to be uploaded on the RXIL platform. So both the buyer as well as the MSME vendor can upload invoices on the platform when their goods or services have been delivered. So when the invoices are uploaded on the RXIL platform, the platform wants a counterparty approval. So typically, if the invoices are uploaded by the vendor on the platform, the same needs to be counter approved by the buyer. The buyer needs to approve the credit period and also the amount that needs to be paid to the vendor. Once that is done, that particular instrument is converted into a factoring unit. The factoring unit now has a particular tenor and a particular amount to get financed. At this particular moment, the financiers are now able to see that particular factoring unit, and based on their assessment and their appetite, they will quote the interest rate to buy this particular factoring unit and to release the payment to the supplier. So typically what we see that whenever a factoring unit comes to the platform after the buyer's approval, so multiple financiers quote their interest rates in a reverse auction mechanism. So let's say we have a factoring unit for a buyer B and a MSME. So whenever we have an invoice of 1 lakh rupee coming to the platform. So let's say SBI quotes 8% and ICICI quotes 7%, and let's say Yes Bank quotes 6%. So the MSME supplier or whoever is the cost bearer gets to accept or encash the invoice at the lowest rate offered by the platform. So by doing this competition among the financiers, the benefit that the MSMEs get is price discovery. So they get to have the lowest price at which they can encash the particular invoice. So whoever is bearing the cost on the platform, be it the seller or be it the buyer, gets to accept the interest rate. Once the acceptance is done, RXIL generates the obligations. So by obligations, we mean that when will the seller receive the funds and when will be the repayment taken from the buyer. So we have the platform operating from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. in 2 different sessions. So from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. is session 1, and after 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. Whatever factoring units get settled in the first session gets factored in the first session, gets settled on T+1 basis on the next working day. And whatever FUs get factored in the second session gets settled on T+2. That is the next working day. So on the next day, the seller gets the MSME vendor or the MSME participant gets a payment through a match credit mechanism directly into their working capital account. Or if they don't have working capital account, into the current account, and on the maturity, the RXIL system, the Treds system auto debits the buyer's account, the corporate or the PSU's account, and credits the money to the financer. This is how the entire transaction is closed, starting from uploading of invoice to the receipt of repayment from the buyer. So this particular slide shows the forward factoring model, wherein the interest is borne by seller. So typically the seller uploads the invoice, the buyer accepts, financiers typically quote their interest rate on the invoice. The seller, who is the cost bearing party, accepts the bid, Subsequently, the financiers disburse the fund on T+1 or T+2. The seller receives the fund, and the buyer pays the financier on the due date through auto debit, and the financier receives the outstanding, and the transaction is closed. Similarly, for a reverse factoring, wherein the interest component is borne by the buyer and the credit period is enjoyed by the buyer. So typically, the buyers upload the invoice on maturity date, and the financiers bid for the invoice. The buyer accepts the bid, being the cost-bearing party. The financier disburses the fund to the seller on T+1 or T+2 basis. And on the due date, on the maturity, the buyer typically repays using the auto debit, and the financier is credited. So the different benefits that this platform offers to the MSMEs is that the first thing is quicker payments. The platform allows the buyers to have access to limits from multiple banks. So simply by registration, so the corporates and PSUs, simply by registration on the Treds platform, they have access to capital from a lot of financiers. So we have 42 financiers on the platform. So whenever a buyer gets registered on the platform, we intimate all the bankers that this particular entity has registered and they are keen to do transactions. So based on the risk appetite and the risk credibility and the appetite of the banker, they set up limits on the platform, and the buyer can use those limits. The corporate or the PSU can use those limits only to make payments to their MSMEs. So it's a benefit for the buyers as well, because they are getting additional funds simply by participating on the platform, which they can use to make faster payments to their MSMEs. The benefits of MSMEs sellers are manifold. One is quicker payments, early realization of cash. One is price discovery, since there are multiple financiers and there is a competition, so they get to have price discovery. And like for example, on the RXIL platform, so on the RXIL platform, if I may tell, the lowest interest rates have gone to around 4% per annum. So that also depends on who is your buyer. So for a AAA rated or a PSU buyer, the interest rates are very low. And for a private, so based on the credibility and the risk appetite and the external rating of the particular buyer, the rates are determined by the bank, and also based on the competition. So the supplier gets to enjoy those rates. Third, it is a without recourse borrowing. So even if the buyer or the corporate or the PSU is not able to repay on the Treds platform on the date of maturity, there is no issue. The entire transaction is without recourse to the MSME supplier. This is also one of the main benefits, and ultimately lower cost of funds. So moving on, what are the benefits for buyers? For buyers also, since they get capital from multiple financiers, which they can use to make payments to the MSME, so it results in like good terms of payment with their suppliers, and a healthy relationship between a buyer and a seller, and enhanced terms of procurement. Sometimes the buyers can also ask for a cash discount based on the early payments that they will push to the platform, so they can ask for cash discounts, thereby better agreement between the and better scope of negotiation from the buyer's perspective, and also it strengthens the relationship between the two business partners. Benefits for financiers. For financiers also, there are a host of benefits that the platform has to offer. The first thing that we offer highly credible buyers and buyers by corporates and PSUs for the banks, where they can take an exposure simply by participating on the platform and fund their MSMEs. Low risk of default, because the highly rated corporates participate, and access to quality customers typically also, and the risk of funding, actually the financiers take a call, that the entire credit call from the financiers perspective is on the buyer. The recourse is on the buyer. So that is why the financiers sitting on the platform can have an access to all the large corporates and PSUs on the platform, where they can take an exposure. They did not invest in infrastructure. They did not invest in branches wherein they can approach the corporates simply by participating. They can take an exposure, and that too, they get a PSL benefit on the outstanding. Since the beneficiaries are MSMEs, so the banks also get a PSL benefit. So all these host of benefits are also there for the financiers, which actually incentivize them and to participate more on the platform. So coming to the end of the presentation, here are some initiatives taken by government to ensure that all PSUs participate and there is more participation from all the participants. So the government has issued a notification back in November 2 and 2nd November 2018, wherein they have mandated all PSUs and government departments to get registered on the platform, on Treds platform. They have also mandated all large corporates having a turnover of more than 500 crores to get registered on the RXIL platform, and also to bring their MSMEs suppliers on the platform so that everybody can take benefit. And the advances financed through Treds platform are also categorized as PSL so that the banks also get incentivized to participate on the platform. These kind of benefits have been taken. So the government has taken a lot of initiatives and given a lot of push to the Minister of Corporate Affairs, the regional ROCs, sending letters to large corporates. So we are in the continuous process of adding more corporates and adding their suppliers on the platform. So we are in the constant pursuit of that. So, and the journey is still on. As of now, we have just registered 600 plus corporates and a lot of them in pipeline. So we look forward to more activations in this year. And COVID have pushed a lot of corporates to make a cash buffer and have pushed them to participate. So we have seen a lot of participation, increase in participation back in 2020 during COVID, and also we hope to see more use of the platform to release funds in this scenario as well. How Treds can address delayed payments. So I've already explained that the MSME payments are mandatorily routed. So the government has pushed a lot of PSUs so that they can route all the payments for MSMEs to the platform so that it can be done in time, and define timelines of PSUs and state enterprises to get registered. So government has come up with different reminders and notices to corporates and PSUs to get registered. The government has also pushed banks to participate aggressively on the platform so that the MSMEs can get benefited. We are also working under certain initiatives where we are linking to the Udyam Aadhaar portal. So as you know, that the definition and the classification of MSMEs have changed with effect from 1st of July 2020. So we have also, what we find is that the bucket of MSMEs will increase, and the government has also launched a new portal called the Udyam portal, and it's mandatory that all the MSMEs get registered on the Udyam portal, because after 31st of March this year, the earlier MSME registration certificates are typically not valid, and the Udyam certificate of Udyam is the mandatory certification that all MSMEs need to have right now. So we are also, while doing registration, we are guiding all the MSMEs to get registered on Udyam portal, and we are also in the process of integration with the Udyam portal. We are also integrated with the GEM platform. Typically, we are also taking different initiatives at Treds so that we can get a larger coverage and we can reach out to maximum number of MSMEs through different channels. Typically, for a MSME vendor or an MSME participant to get registered on the platform, they simply have to visit our website. So we have a very smooth online customer journey that we have in place for the MSME. Our systems are linked to MCA, so you have to just type your PAN number or GST number, and our system automatically fetch your data from the GST portal. So that gives you a comfort and ease to fill up the application. It's very easy. You can directly come to our website rxil.in. On the right hand top corner, you will see a register button. If you click that, your online journey will start. And we have an entire back-end operations team which help the MSMEs. They handhold the MSMEs to get registered on the platform, and they guide them until completion, and also beyond that to get the transaction started. So what we have is typically company KYC, promoter KYC, board resolution, and a master agreement, and all these documents, and the cancelled check. Based on these documents, we can get them based on the platform. So coming to the end of the slide, this is my coordinates. You can connect with me. You can, so everybody can, viewers can note down my phone number and email ID, and you can directly contact me in case of any doubts or clarifications, or if you want us to get connected with your buyers or your customers so that we can get them on board on the platform for any doubts. Also, if you want this presentation,
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot, Indrajit ji. Uh, we all had a wonderful session. Thanks for explaining us in detail how MSMEs can get themselves on board with Treds, and it was a wonderful explanation. It was quite clear, and I'm sure our viewers must have some questions to address. And we have Ashish ji from Rata Delhi chapter to address those questions and ask you further some questions in detail. So, Ashish ji, over to you. You can ask your questions.
Thank you, Rishabh, and thank you, Indrajit. I think there's an echo. I don't know how this.
Yes, there is a little bit of echo.
Yeah,
Uh,
because today's the biggest challenge has been connectivity into the
Correct.
program, and
Yeah.
but I know there are a few questions on the board, and I probably will take it up one by one, and I'll ask Indrajit if he can address them. So one question that is there is that in this whole program of RXIL and Treds, the first primary thing is that the buyer needs to be on board with you, and then only the MSME can go ahead and get their bill discounted. So
right,
it doesn't, right? So it
right,
doesn't. So MSMEs will not benefit till you have all the the large corporates being registered with you. So it is the benefit to MSME is subjective to the large corporates accepting to be on your portal. I mean, this is the question.
right.
So is it?
Yes, sir. So I'll try and give the situation what we have. So yes, the buyer as well as the seller as well as the financer, all the three parties need to be on the platform, onboarded to come together to do a transaction. So what we are under a constant journey of adding more buyers, large corporates. So we are expecting another notification wherein all mid-sized corporates will also be mandated to get registered on the platform. Because, and also if you see, there are a lot of corporates in India which have a turnover of more than 500, but they are still not registered on the platform. So it's a, like, sometimes we are reaching out to different MSME suppliers, and we are requesting them to get us connected to different corporates wherein we can get them registered, because we also have to parallelly pitch in to the corporates that we are there to help you with funds from different financiers, which you can use to pay your MSMEs. So, so that benefit also we have to explain to different corporates, and we are in the process of doing that. We are reaching out to corporates through different channels, be it our financing partners, through them, be it the MSME suppliers, be it the direct inquiries that are coming after the government notices to them. So through all these channels, we are exploring how we can register more and more buyers or anchors on the platform, so that the MSMEs get. So the MSMEs through a single registration. The idea is that the MSMEs through a single registration on the platform can upload invoices across multiple corporates and PSUs, and they need not worry, and they can start encashing their receivables whenever they require, and they can shorten their cash conversion cycle without hurting their profitability. That's the idea, offering lower cost of financing and offering uh, the option of encashing receivables across corporates. That's the idea. A
So
unified platform. We're in
I
the
will also
process.
put.
Let's
Sorry,
see.
sorry, sorry. Please. No. So I will again rephrase this question in another format, and the question would be, uh, if a corporation which is 500 CR plus on the terms of sales, is it a mandate that they have to be registered, or is it an optional? Point number one. And the question sub
No,
part is,
for option.
okay, and the sub part is there any kind of an NDA that has to be there? Because the manufacturer may want to keep what is he's buying at what price, maybe a kind of restricted information to the public at large. So is there an NDA also? Because the NDA is not shown in your flow of chart, but is there an NDA that is also required?
Just a moment. I'm not able to hear you properly. I'll just try and switch my connection.
Rishabh, can you hear me? I mean,
Yeah, I can hear you. It's just
yeah,
some
connectivity.
connectivity issue with
Yeah.
Indrajit's side.
You're able to hear me, right?
Yeah.
Yes, we can. So, did you get the question, or should I repeat again, Indrajit?
I think you can repeat the question.
In Indrajit, can you hear me? I think
Yes.
we can't
So
hear.
I'll
Yeah.
answer the first. You can hear me, right?
Yeah, it becomes patchy in between. Like we hear few words and then we lose you. So maybe if you can turn off your video, we get a better audio from you. Yeah, Indrajit, that's thank you. But can you try to answer so that we can move to the next question after this?
I've turned off my video just in case so that you can hear my voice.
Yeah, please. Yeah, thank you. Go ahead,
Tide over the
Indrajit.
issue. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can. I'm not sure if you are. So
I think Ashish, you should go ahead with your question. I think, or maybe write in the yeah. Maybe you can just write the question here. I'll just write it for you so that he is able to look at the question and then probably he can address it. Yeah, Indrajit?
Yes.
I think is
You can hear me, right?
yeah, we can
Yeah.
hear you now.
Great. I'll take the first question first. So, yes, there is a mandate which is in place as per the notification from Ministry of MSME dated 2nd November 2018, which mandates all PSUs and central and state government PSUs and government departments and corporates having a turnover of more than 500 crores to participate on the Treds platform and their MSMEs. Also, there is a subsequent circulars and notices which have pushed the corporates to get their MSMEs registered on the platform. So these mandates are already in place. Now, the second question, what you had is something related to NDA, right?
Correct.
Right. So we typically we are agreed to execute NDAs. We have agreements with every participant on the platform. So the platform functions like an exchange. So as you know that the second party in every transaction is the exchange itself. So we execute master agreements with every party. So so if the buyers require an NDA, we go ahead and execute that as well. In terms of confidentiality of data, the transactions are only visible between a buyer supplier combination. So a particular buyer may have multiple suppliers under multiple terms. So they may on the platform they may have multiple suppliers enjoying multiple different terms, and so that is why the importance of the buyer seller link that we have on the platform. So based on that link, which is unique to every buyer seller combination, the transactions happen, and the confidentiality only the financiers are able to see the factoring units. And I think beyond that, the data is simply stored and it is not for any other purpose on the platform.
Thank you. I have another question again with two subparts. The first part is that what is the tenure of financing? Like how is it decided, and can there be flexibility?
So we have the RBI Treds guidelines. So all the Treds platform have to operate under the Treds guidelines, which have laid out by RBI. So the tenor of financing on typically on Treds can go up to 180 days. So it can be entirely used by the buyer or the seller, or it can be a split. But typically, the tenor that we see on the platform, again, the banks also have to be comfortable to finance on a tenor of 180. So, based on what we see, the average tenor that we see on the platform is between 90 and 120.
Is there, apart from the interest cost, any transaction charges
Yes.
which maybe, and is that decided by RXIL or by the individual bank financiers?
No. So the interest cost is typically taken away by the financiers. So that happens on a real-time auction basis based on the risk appetite of the banker and the credibility of the external rating of the buyer, and depending on the competition on the platform. So that is totally dynamic. The transaction charges that RXIL levies on the cost-bearing party is as per the agreed terms between the buyer, and typically the transaction charges are decided when we have a buyer getting onboarded on the platform. So based on the volume expectations and the negotiation between the buyer and RXIL, the transaction charges are fixed. So even if the MSMEs are bearing the cost, but the transaction charges are fixed during the onboarding of the buyer, and it remains that way. So let's say we have an MSME ABC who is supplying to corporates X, Y, Z. So they may have different transaction charges for different corporates. For three different transactions, there will be different interest rates based on the rating of the corporate and different transaction charges.
Yeah. So actually, you have answered my next question in half. I was wanting to check if an MSME is supplying to 3 buyers like X, Y, and Z. So does he only one registration is valid, or he has to go multiple registrations?
So the registration is only once. So they will have a member code on the platform, and they can use that member code across buyer-seller combinations. So registration, that is the main proposition of the platform, that through a single registration they can avail the benefit of invoice discounting across multiple corporates.
Thank you. I think pretty much all the concern questions have been exhausted, but I still would say that, if you could just once again give the the URL link, or the company website where people can easily find the link to start registering themselves, that will be great. And then afterwards, then again, probably I would like to say a word of thanks, but I would just like you to repeat the link, please.
Right.
Yeah. So Ashish, yeah. I'll be the moderator for that. I'll be posting the link and all the address and the details which were presented by Indrajit in the last slide in the YouTube as well as the Facebook section for our viewers, and so that it'll be there for later on for the viewers to check. Okay, and also Indrajit, I just want to know, like these buyers, they have to be private limited companies, or they can be individuals also.
So the buyers, so everybody is open to get registered on the platform as a buyer, but typically since the banks are mainly the source of funds, so based on their credibility, so the credibility of the buyer participating in the platform is of immense importance. So keeping that in mind, and based on their the government has mandated only large corporates having turnover of 500 crores and above, and the PSUs, given the impact that they create. So, and slowly, I think we'll also attract more corporates. So we are approaching everybody wherever we find a scope to get them finance, to help their MSME suppliers getting finance through. So not only we are working on the mandate, but we are also approaching mid corporates having a turnover of, let's say, 200 plus crores annually. So that you can also, so we have corporates which are registered both as MSMEs as well as buyers on the platform. So we
Okay.
have examples of corporates, they're registered both as MSMEs as well as buyers. So they're credible enough to also get a funding from the buyer's perspective, and they are MSMEs because the MSME
So basically,
has to be
from what I understand is you're looking at the buyers who are kind of like large corporates, okay, so that
correct.
they get on board and MSME money is secured. It is timely.
Correct.
The payments are timely made, and also
Correct.
in the end, they get the benefit out of the best interest rates. Correct.
Right. Right.
So now let's assume like in our air conditioning industry, a lot of our viewers they are supplying to large corporates, big companies which are worth more than 500 CR. Okay, so now from their side, what all they can do? Like we are also supplied to OEMs. Ashish ji, in front of you, he is also supplied to some of the OEMs. So if we want to get them on board, what should be the procedure?
So typically, you can get us connected to them, or you can also make them aware that this is the facility that this is a mandate that is in place from the Ministry of MSME, and you should comply to that. So this has to be brought to the notice of large corporates wherever the MSMEs are supplying, and also you can connect us, help us get connected with them so that we can propose. So side by side with the compliance perspective, so that is
Hmm.
there, but we can also propose what benefits we can offer them as a result of participating on Treds, so that we can get them incentivized or get them attracted to participate on the platform, which in turn again will benefit the MSMEs.
Okay, let's suppose like we tried with one of the organization and they were quite hesitant, though they are a large corporate. But if they are, quite hesitant to join trades, then what we can do? What can be the reason? Because some of the large corporations they don't want to get into the cycle of this thing. They said they don't want to share the data. So for that, how like you yourself or your team can support in this? Like they can
Yes,
visit and
absolutely.
see what. Okay.
Absolutely. We constantly take out data from public domain or from MCA, and we put mailers to the company secretaries or the concerned persons from
Hmm.
wherever we get a lead, so that we can approach them, we can tell them what are the benefits, not only for their MSME, but for the buyers as well, because they also get a cash comfort, right? Today, if we have 42 or more than 40 financiers on the platform who are ready to take a exposure on a particular highly rated corporate, then they should also be attracted towards that, right? Given the COVID.
Okay. 42 financers.
As of now, we have the largest number of financiers across the Trades platform, and we are in the pursuit of adding more of them.
Okay. And now for the invoice generation, like every time the invoice is made, whatever be the invoice value, every time it is made, it goes through the same procedure like you explained.
Right, right. So we have options. So for buyers, we typically have options of integrating with their ERP, so
Yes.
that it can help them in reconciliation when they are approving hundreds and thousands of invoices on the
So yeah,
platform.
the question was coming. So let's suppose the MSME doesn't have the ERP system, so they'll have the dedicated person to
They
put all
so
the
we have
invoices on the Trades platform.
so from the MSME side, we have given options of bulk uploading to Excel
Okay.
file or CSVs, so that they can directly upload hundreds of invoices and hundreds of lines of data in a single shot. So that's the comfort that we have given the MSMEs. On the other hand, the comfort that we have given the buyers to reconcile with the payments is that we integrate typically with their
So
ERP.
Indrajit, like next time for our viewers and audience to have a better understanding, what I propose is if we can have a demo of how exactly the things actually work. You know, if it can be
Right.
done, yeah, if that can be done on this problem, maybe it won't take much of the time, but it will give a better understanding, and maybe I will involve some large corporates also to look at that kind of
Right.
demonstration. Yeah, so I'll ask all the associate members who can invite all the large corporates. Like we have like how we have Rata for MSMEs. For large corporates we have Rama. So we will probably ask
Okay.
them. we are organizing a demo for the Rama members, and with Rama, there are large corporates like Carrier, Blue Star, Daikin, to name a few. These are the
Right.
organizations which are linked to them. So maybe if they'll have a better demo and the right person we can contact who is actually
Correct.
responsible for taking such kind of decisions is there to take a look at the demo, maybe a very small and precise, so that for them also it's not difficult to take out time.
Correct.
So
So
I think
we are
this will
happy
be a
to do it.
great idea to work as a team and maybe get the most out of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think this is very important that we seek help from organizations like yours, where we can get connected to different corporates from a particular sector in a single platform, and we have the opportunity to give a demo and to pitch in and to propose our product, what benefits we can provide them as well. So I think that's a very good proposition, and we will be looking forward to it, and we will look forward to your support to organize that.
So what do you think, Ashish ji? What do you think about this idea?
Yeah, I think any good idea needs to be taken forward. I mean, I'm not to say that probably what names we would suggest will not be in the already in the radar of RXIL. I'm not saying that, but yes, sometimes it does happen to make it mature. Things just go moving from one form or the other, and if we are actually able to go to the Rama platform, it makes a lot of difference. So I think that's a way of looking forward. We should have a joint meeting somewhere close and
Okay.
soon.
Okay, so point taken. I'll probably follow up with this idea, and probably in the month of May, we'll come up with something constructive for sure.
Yeah.
So I think vote of thanks has to be addressed by Ashish ji today. He
It's
is
my
our
privilege and honor. Yeah, I'm like, it's always good to be in good company. So thank you, Indrajit, for this wonderful session, and taking time out. There has been some glitches today, but still, I appreciate your perseverance that you logged in, logged out, and then re-logged in just to be helpful to all our members and listeners. Thank you so much.
and I
Thank you,
think the
Rishabh.
Q&A session almost resolved all the queries of the viewers. I'm
I
sure,
cannot
like,
say that. Yeah, I mean, like the ones that we could see, they
yes,
could be still further. So we request all the attendees, if they have any further, they can still leave in the chat box. If
sure.
not addressed
Correct.
now, we will come back to them again
They can also
sometime
shoot
soon.
emails to my email ID directly, and
Correct.
I'll be happy to interact with them.
Yeah, I think probably Rishabh is going to give it in the end. Thank you,
Yes.
Rishabh, for taking the initiative and having it constructively put in place. And thanks to the backstage team, for wonderfully executing this program. Thank you all, and over to you, Rishabh, for concluding the program. Thank you so much, Indrajit.
Okay, so it was a great session today by Indrajit Samantha, and I hope all our viewers enjoyed the show, and whatever queries they have, they can always put up on our Facebook and YouTube platforms. And I request all the viewers from our industry to take a look at our Rata India website and just go through the programs, the kind of programs we conduct, and also be a part of the initiative. Thank you. Thanks a lot.